Vietnam might not be a football powerhouse internationally, but their local league has a fairly strong following, and most importantly a varying array of stadiums. So here are the V.League 1 grounds. We start off with Quang Nam Stadium, which was renovated prior to the club's promotion to the top flight a few years ago. Still, the actual design is very straightforward. It's a single tier of mostly terracing throughout. However, it's done up entirely in its club's very vibrant colours. As you'll see throughout the video, the Vietnamese don't shy away from those bright colours, which is a good thing in my book. Tanah Stadium. This one's a little more distinctive, in particular the main stand. In particularly the way it dips in the middle and rises in the corners. Given the animal featured on the club's crest, I think it might be inspired by the wings of a bird. In fact, just the other day I saw a bird that was indistinguishable from that stand. Like I said, indistinguishable. Having said that, the stadium seats don't even match the club colours, so who knows. PLU Stadium is one of the rare rectangular stadiums in this league. In fact, it was the first notable football-specific stadium to be built in Vietnam. Another little tidbit about the ground is that it wasn't until 2008 that there were separate home team and visiting team changing rooms, which was probably a bit awkward after a fiercely contested match. It happens to have the smallest capacity out of any of the stadiums in the league, still it's gotta be one of the best. Truong Stadium. We're back to the running tracks, but oddly enough, this stadium started out its life as a race course, as in a horse race course. Which is curious because I don't believe gambling was legal in Vietnam back then. So were they actually enjoying horse racing as a sport in its pure form? No, that can't be it. There must have been some form of betting going on. Anyway, it's been a football ground since the 70s. Hang Day Stadium. Ooh, that name conjures up some rather grim imagery of capital punishment en masse. No, Hang is just a common Vietnamese name. It means moon. Speaking of dead people, how does the saying bros before hoes work when it comes to this guy? I guess this hoe is revered above all bros in Vietnam. After all, the largest city in the country is named after him. I suppose this unusual section of seating is specifically for the running events. Tien Stadium was renovated in 2019, only for a major flood to occur in 2020, causing some damage. Personally, I blame this lake over here. It's all your fault, you oddly shaped body of water. You wish you were an ocean, but you're just a lake. A man-made lake. That renovation did make some much needed improvements to the drainage, so the outcome wasn't as bad as it could have been. Tanah Lot Stadium, also known as Reunification Stadium, is the oldest venue in the league, having opened in 1931. That mean-looking battleship you see there on the club's crest is not just for looks, it's a nod to the club's history. Well, technically the club's predecessor's history. They initially represented the Saigon port. The Port Authority stopped funding the club, so they ceased to exist, and the newly formed Ho Chi Minh City took their place. Interesting how they still call it Saigon Port. Nha Trang Stadium is situated just a stone's throw from a rather nice beach. It actually hosted some events of the 2016 Asian Beach Games. Who knew that was a thing? There was no beach cricket, unfortunately, so if you're gonna disregard such a fine sport that is the epitome of professionalism, then I'm not interested. That's an interesting little tower thing, is that? Oh, hang on. Never mind, that's not part of the stadium. Tien Truong Stadium. Due to the often boisterous crowd at this ground, this undulating bowl of a stadium gets the nickname Heavenly Fire Pan. I'm sure it sounds better and makes more sense in Vietnamese. Actually, fire pan does make sense, because that's kind of like a cauldron. And it's not uncommon to describe a stadium as a cauldron. I'm just not sure what's heavenly about it. I guess they're just being complimentary. I'm not sure why I'm trying to poke holes in the nickname. It's a nice stadium. Vin Stadium is situated within the bounds of a star-shaped fort known as the Citadel of Vin, which was built in the 19th century. Sadly, it didn't work to keep the French out. But I mean, it wasn't all bad. They put the baguette in banh mi after all. Nowadays, the stadium itself is a more imposing presence than the Citadel, which has basically been reduced to a moat and not much else. Oh, and for some reason, this stadium's construction back in the day was largely funded by West Germany. Kinda random. Quang Nam Stadium. Finally, after we've been through about a dozen venues, we have a modern rectangular stadium. It's actually primarily the home of a second-tier club. However, Quang Nam have been playing here since they were promoted last season. I don't blame them. It's considerably better than their previous home and is only 57 kilometers away. Ooh, that's a bit far actually. I guess I'll be upgrading their old ground rather than staying here permanently. Tanah Lot Stadium. You might immediately notice that the track surrounding the field is a little odd. It is full width along the western stand and quite narrow around the rest of the ground, which means that the main stand is actually the furthest away from the action. Anyway, this place is also known as the Fire Pan. Not the Heavenly Fire Pan, but the Fire Pan. I guess that is just a common stadium nickname in this country. And those were the V.League 1 stadiums. As for my favourite, I'm gonna have to be boring and choose the obvious one. It's just a cut above the rest. Please consider subscribing if you're new around here. And as always, thanks for watching, have a good one.